Well, I think the first question is how did we end up going to the Middle East in the first place, which was a deal we did when we had exactly 2.5 Shake Shacks, the original one in Madison Square Park, our second one on the Upper West Side, and then a seasonal Shake Shack at Citi Field for the Mets. And we were visited by a fantastic international licensee based in Kuwait City named Al Shaya. They are the licensee for Starbucks and for Estee Lauder, for H&M, and for a handful of other food concepts as well. We met them, and at that point in my career, we had never done anything for a second time. And so as much experience as we had opening one-of-a-kind restaurants in New York City, we thought this would be a great school to go to learn how to replicate. Because if Shake Shack was a great document, Al Shaya was a fantastic Xerox machine, and we had a lot to learn. And furthermore, what we liked about going to the Middle East, places like Kuwait and Dubai and Abu Dhabi and Qatar, was wouldn't it be great to get that business lesson as far away from our customers as possible, so that if it didn't work, it would be a little bit less visible to everybody. So it turned out that the experience was fantastic. It also showed us that Shake Shack travels. We didn't know that. It showed us that the exact same kind of lines of people that you might find in the theater district in New York City were lining up at the Mall of the Emirates, opposite the indoor ski slope in Dubai. I think Shake Shack is viewed not only as an American product, but even I think New York City comes along for the ride as well. Everybody knows that Shake Shack was born in New York City, and maybe this is a well-known fact, maybe it's not, but in the history of public restaurant companies, I think there's only been 3 from the entire state of New York, and only 2 from New York City. So historically, if Manhattan liked a certain kind of food, it didn't mean it was going to play on Main Street throughout the United States. But this one has. And I think that at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, a lot of people think the greatest export of America is democracy. It's not true. The greatest export of America is entertainment. Sometimes it's entertainment in the form of music. Sometimes it's entertainment in the form of movies, films. But also, I think restaurants are a form of entertainment. And I think that Shake Shack is part of a new wave of what that can look like from America. And I think it feels really good to people. And people also love that when we come into one of their cities, we're obviously hiring locally. It makes a lot of sense for us to have licensed partners abroad, because there's a lot we don't know about other cultures. There's a lot we don't know about how real estate, how labor, how licensing, permitting work in different places. And so, fortunately, we don't let hubris get the best of us, and it's worth finding a best-of-class partner who is local to help us do that. The biggest issues in terms of growing internationally have been our product sourcing, because depending on where you go in the world, there are very different regulations than you might find here in America. So the first time we went internationally was to the Middle East. And in the Middle East, it was really rather simple in that we could use 100% of the exact same products that we use right here. The only variable being that the beef had to be blessed by an imam before it left Pat LaFreda in New Jersey. So that's not that hard to do. It got a little bit more challenging when we went to Turkey, where the law says that 100% of the cattle that you use for your beef supply is raised in Turkey. And we didn't find the same black Angus beef in Turkey. So the question was, how could we make Turkish cattle taste just like a Shake Shack burger? Then it got even more exciting when we went to London, because in London, not only did we absolutely want to use local beef if we possibly could, But the best local beef, and we could find Black Angus in Scotland, is grass-fed, which is great. We want to use grass-fed beef, but how do you get Scottish grass-fed Angus to taste like the Kansas all-natural beef that's finished on grain that we use in our other Shake Shacks domestically? We also, furthermore, have the challenge of only being able to use non-GMO hamburger buns and non-GMO French fries. Now, the good news with that experience, because we figured out how to do it all, is that we took those learnings back here to the United States, and now we finally have non-GMO French fries and non-GMO hamburger buns everywhere in the United States. The different skill set is that we don't need to have really good reservationists. We don't need to have maitre d's. We don't need to have fantastic florists. We don't need to have a pastry chef who's awesome and different at every single one of our restaurants. So the skill set we do need, on the other hand, is just remarkable training, so that if you were to go to a Shake Shack outside of Penn or Wharton, it would taste exactly like the Shake Shack outside of the Yale School of Management, or it would taste exactly like the Shake Shack outside of Harvard Business School, or it would taste exactly like the Shake Shack in Abu Dhabi. And I think that that skill of doing the same thing consistently throughout the world takes a very different kind of training than a one-of-a-kind restaurant, which is what we really are best known for. Places like Gramercy Tavern or Union Square Cafe or Maialino or The Modern, where you go there expecting to have a flavor you've never had before that you wouldn't have in another restaurant. So that's a very, very different approach to how we do business.